Thank you, recording voice. All right. Thank you all for joining us. I think there's a lot of people in this room who are pretty excited about planning and the future of Ballpark and the future of Ballpark being connected to other neighborhoods. This is a really exciting time for us. So let's see. Detective Fallows, I see you around, and I would love to introduce you.
How's it going? Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you great, Detective Fallows. Can you hear us?
I can, yep.
Excellent. What's going on in District 5? It seems Ballpark seems so much safer than it was this time last year.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. Sorry, let me pull up something real quick. Okay. Yeah, I mean things are looking good in Ballpark. So for those that may not know me, I'm Detective Sam Fallows, the community liaison for District 5, where Ballpark is located. And kind of one of the things that I do is, report on crime stats and things like that. As Amy kind of just stated, things are looking pretty good in Ballpark. We definitely don't, we definitely have our issues for sure. But I wanted to just see if anybody has any questions for me that I can try and answer, or anything that I can follow up on for you, um, public safety wise tonight. So that's kind of what I'm going to do, and then just go from there. And
And I know,
online, if you have a question, you just throw it in the chat for me.
I know we had some questions from community members earlier this week. Kelly Lake, I see you're on the call, or I see a person named Kelly, who I think is Kelly Lake's on the call. If you wanted to float any questions about what's happening around 300 West.
Were you talking to me, Amy?
No, I was talking to Kelly Lake. Hey there, Kelly.
I'm here sort of and driving, so pay no attention anybody like Sam, sorry. Are we are we concerned at all that we are having our officers from the Miller Center reallocated?
Yeah, let's address that. So, um,
I mean, I'm concerned.
yep, I
Maybe
understand.
explain, Kelly, I don't think everybody knows, where your business is, where Miller Center is, all that stuff, because we've got some guests in the room from
Okay.
the Grand Plan and other.
Okay, cool. So I'm on Third West. One of my outlets is on Third West. We're across the street from the Miller Resource Center. And we have had tremendous success with the Liberty Miller squad that's been housed there. We have 6 officers, is that correct? And they have a certain number of hours a week. Occasionally, their sergeant's able to scramble a few more overtime hours. The city has become concerned about Liberty Park, and so we are now having to share our officers with Liberty Park. So even though they were allocated to the Miller Resource Center, we won't be seeing as much of them for a while. I don't know if that's going to change. It doesn't fill my heart with warmth because they made such a difference to the business crime on Third West.
Yeah, so let me address some of that real quick, and then we'll take any questions that I can answer. So they're not being reallocated. What's happened is we had a lot of citizen complaints about Liberty Park recently. And so I think if you've been to Liberty Park before 2 weeks ago, it was becoming quite a public safety concern. And so our department put together an operation plan to deal with that safety concern, based on, like, again, all the camping issues, all of the citizen complaints that we received, and all these things. And so what they've done is they are utilizing the HRC squads to help with that operation plan. But what they're doing, and the nexus between what they're doing there and the homeless resource centers, is they are having the homeless resource center squads go out to Liberty Park and engage individuals who they may know there, for instance, because they'll know, they'll know the people in the park more than probably anybody, because a lot of the people who are at Liberty Park also utilize services at the HRCs or have utilized them in the past, or the HRC squads have dealt with them often, and so they utilize the HRC squads to go out there, help I maybe identify some of these individuals, try and get them some services, things like that. And so what's happening is right now they are splitting their time between Liberty Park and the HRC. So yes, they're not going to be 100% at the HRCs, but they're definitely still there. And then, and this is just a temporary thing for now while we were executing this operation to get the public safety concerns under control at Liberty Park. And um, so yeah, they, the HRC squads, they play a vital role in, helping us with public safety, with reducing the victimization of, especially of our unsheltered population, enforcing the laws around all those things. And so they're a little more expert. They have a little more expertise in those things. So that's one of the reasons they brought them in, to help with that operation specifically. Then on top of that, again, they have a better relationship, they have a better understanding, and they have a better kind of hold on who some of these individuals are at the park that might be able to get resources, or that maybe we need to enforce the laws on, things like that. So that's another reason they brought them in. So again, this is just a temporary thing. It'll have a fairly limited impact on their core responsibilities. They're essentially, again, they're splitting their time, so they're still spending time in the area of 300 West, of the Gail Miller, and I'm talking specifically for Liberty, right? Because that's where we are in the Liberty division. So they're still splitting their time right now, and again, that's temporary. So I don't have an anticipated end date. I'm not going to say that I don't think it's going to be a super long time. We're going to look at like 6 months or something like that. It's going to be like, I don't want to give a time frame because I don't know the exact time frame, but it's not going to be a super extended time. If you've been to Liberty Park in the last 2 weeks, you can already see a ginormous difference. So yeah, they're splitting their time between the two locations right now. And then, as you guys know, Sergeant Meinzer is like extremely responsive when it comes to like community complaints and things like that. So this is not to say that if you do have a concern for your area, not to reach out to him or something like that. Like, reach out to him still concerning those issues. And they're trying to balance as best they can between getting this operation successful and again, they're not the only ones doing this. We've got our bike units, we've got other specialty units that are helping with this part, because we're trying to, again, just make sure this issue stays under control over at Liberty. So I don't know if that answers most of the questions, hopefully, but essentially that's what it comes down to. Is they're splitting their time right now. The nexus between it is that they have an expertise to help the officers that are at the park do that, so that, like, because they know the people there, they know the individuals at the park, because again, a lot of the individuals at the park are the same individuals that are either utilizing or have utilized services at Gail Miller, or are in the surrounding areas, in the past. So that's why they brought them in. So yeah, and go ahead.
I'm sorry. It makes it on paper, it makes a ton of sense. If we see a little bit of a spike in our area, will the hours be readjusted? How are they balancing that? Because, if you look in that area, Sugarmont Park, for example, has a really, really rough camp. Like, people on the street avoid it. Yeah, over behind the Sugar House wine store. So if they get a lot of citizen complaints, then do we also share that way? And everybody, the needs definitely outstrip the resources, right? We get that. It's just, they've had such a positive and profound impact on the area.
Yeah, and I would not be concerned with that going away at all. So that's not what this is. This isn't the start of like the HRC squads being utilized all over the city for little projects. This was really just our response to, when I say citizen complaints, I don't mean like one or two. I mean, like, I don't know the exact number, but it was a lot. And again,
it was a lot of campers.
Yeah, again, if you went to Liberty Park, it was not a small, it was a major issue. Right? We'll just call it what it was. It was a major issue. It was not a small issue. It's not something that patrol can deal with. It's not something that even just one bike unit could have dealt with by themselves. So even with like round the clock uh officers in the park for like 80% of a 24-hour period, it still took like 2 weeks to get that under control. Um so yes, but I don't want you all to think like, okay, well, now they're going to be pulled all over the city and they're going to be doing these little projects. That's not the goal of the HRC squads. And our department 100% recognizes how important they are and how impactful they are. We're certainly not trying to take that away, and that's why they're still doing. That's why they're still splitting their time.
Got the customers for you.
Hey,
Hey there.
They brought their wallets.
so that's why they're splitting their time between the HRC and the park right now. So,
Okay, hey, thank you for the explanation. I appreciate that.
yeah. Is there any other questions about that specifically? Or any other questions about anything else that I can try to answer?
Yes, please.
Hey, Detective Fallows. This is Christina from East Liberty Park Community Organization. I wanted to just let the people of Ballpark know that we really appreciate this little shift, this temporary shift, because East Liberty Park being that regional park that serves all of D5, but also the entire area.
Yeah.
Aside from Sugar House, that we really appreciate this allocation. And if anybody here in Ballpark does need some help from any of the citizens of IS who are getting a little relief, ask Amy and we can maybe help with some volunteering or whatever if you see some spikes down here. So
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And I think again, like, I don't want you guys to think they're not in that area, because they are. So and again, Sergeant Meinzer will definitely if you have concerns, issues, if you're starting to see a spike, don't let it become a problem. If like Kelly and anyone else who owns a business, don't let it become a problem or a big problem, and then you reach out to Meinzer. Make sure you just kind of stay on top of it, because this is all kind of case by case, right? So if the HRC area were to start having some issues, like major issues, I have no doubt that our department would prioritize that. So just like I said, just let us know when there's issues. Don't let it become a major problem, so that we can stay on top of it. But yeah, again, this is not going to be a long-term, like, permanent or anything like that. It's just to get the public safety concerns over at Liberty Park under control for that stuff. So I'm glad that has been helpful over there. And with the Fairmont Park, which is D7 technically, but I'm working on that myself. So I wouldn't worry so much about Fairmont's. Nothing compared to Liberty, how Liberty was right now. And it definitely has its concerns and its issues over there. But like I said, his squad's not going to be getting pulled all over the place for smaller issues like that. That's just not what the goal of the HRCs are. So I wouldn't be concerned about that. So any other questions or concerns or comments?
Yeah, I have a kind of a more general question, like does
Detective Fallows, can you hear folks in the room?
yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so this is I was just curious if the police department, I hadn't seen anything, but if there was like an official or kind of unofficial sense or any kind of inkling on how the Supreme Court ruling regarding like overflow, like when there's no more shelter space available, being able to criminalize sleeping outdoors. Is there any inkling, like I know that California, like the governor there is, I haven't heard anything from Governor Cox or from Aaron Mendenhall's administration. Was there any inkling on if that's going to impact the policies that Salt Lake Police Department does, or if you have just heard? I'm just kind of curious about that. It's kind of
That's a really good question. I haven't heard of anything specific. Our policy right now is generally, we give them, first of all, we give them an opportunity to clean up whatever issues there may be. So if they do have a tent, we'll give them an opportunity to take it down. We try to find them resources, and then we try to find them an available bed. And then as a last resort, if someone is just like refusing to cooperate with us or refusing to follow the laws, or if there is a bed available and they're just like, nope, screw you, I don't care, I'm not leaving, or I'm not gonna take advantage of it, then if it's appropriate, then we will cite someone for camping. But you're right, under the Supreme Court ruling, essentially you don't need any of those things in place any further. You can just cite someone directly. But I believe right now, at least as far as I haven't been told anything different. We're still, our policies are still essentially try and go the resources route, try and provide them opportunities to to come into compliance with no camping, things like that. And then if they're still refusing or they're still not cooperating, then issue a citation or make an arrest.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Any other questions? Don't be shy.
You might follow the work of the Utah Homeless Services Board to see what language they use regarding the decision. And the chair of that board is Randy Shumway, and it's a state level board that makes state level decisions, including, for example, the mitigation grant that funds the HRC squads, the Homeless Resource Center squads. Those are decisions that are rendered by that board. So they are an important voice and things like how that court decision be applied in terms of policy.
Yeah, 100%. We're going to be working closely with, and we do already, like our relationship with the state in regards to like homelessness, camps, all those things. We're all working pretty like more than I've ever seen before, and I think it is having a good impact for sure. The state has really stepped up and started taking care of their properties in the city that have camping and stuff going on. And they, we coordinate with them. Multiple times a week, but I coordinate personally just with them in like 2 different meetings a week. So there's a lot of coordination going on. There's a lot of discussions going on and communication going on, which is really good. So.
All right, if there aren't any other questions, we really appreciate you signing on, Detective Fallows.
Absolutely.
Those were not soft pitches.
It's ballpark. I love ballpark. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean into those metaphors, right? So anyway, thank you for your time. And we look forward to continuing to work with you, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right. I'm very excited. I'm sorry I just don't want to miss anybody in the participants list, and I want everybody to, get let in. I didn't know that the waiting room was something that you can turn off if you don't have a secret registration manager. Anyway, but without further ado, we are really, really excited to learn about Ballpark NEXT. Tell us more. But tell us more.
Yes, if I share a few slides.
Yes, let me find you. If you want to raise your paw, then we can find you on the participant list and make you. Let's see.
And is it okay if I sit up here?
Or wherever you would like to sit.
Just so I don't have my back turned.
And it feels very weird, right?
Yeah.
In some ways, it's humbling. We're all learning together, but like in other ways, it's awful.
I feel like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of pressure.
There are just so many people in this room who've been part of stakeholder, committees over, I think 4 years ago was when we first started working with different architecture firms who wanted to be part of the Ballpark re-envisioning process before we knew the bees were leaving, but just the station area plan.
Oh, yeah.
And so folks would do interviews with board members to see like what were we looking for. Um,
It's very
then things changed.
Yeah. And then a curveball. I know, like, do you guys just do this all the time?
I figured if I wore the Hail the Whale shirt, I was just gonna like lean into everything.
Okay. Well, I'll get started. Thanks so much for having us tonight. I know it was kind of last minute, so we do appreciate you throwing us on the agenda. But my name is Lauren Parisi. I'm a senior project manager with the Redevelopment Agency of Salt Lake City, and I'm joined by my colleague Kenna Holly. And the two of us will be the project managers for the Ballpark NEXT Urban Design Framework. It's kind of a mouthful. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that my former colleague, Corinne Piazza, she was the project manager on this beforehand, and she recently got a job on the East Coast, moved back to be with her family. So I know she's probably worked with a lot of you, and she was really loved working on this project. And so we hope to do her justice, but moving forward, it will be McKenna and I at the RDA kind of spearheading this. So before we dive into the details of that urban design framework, I wanted to take a beat to note what happened previously, because it's been a minute. And so that was the community visioning process that wrapped up at the beginning of this year. And so with that, there were many public meetings, open public meetings. There were 2 surveys that were done. And then there was a group called the Community Advisory Committee that worked together to generate guiding principles for the ballpark site. And so that was a really extensive process, and we really greatly appreciate your participation in that. And so the Ballpark NEXT guiding principles that came out of that process, just as a reminder, and these are the elements that the community wants to see at the forefront of the development. So just again, as a reminder, those include neighborhood safety and activation, connectivity, natural geography, wellness, community-centered, and acknowledge the past. And these are broken down into more detail in the community visioning process document that's on our website. But just as a reminder, this is what's guiding our next step, and this is what the design is really rooted in, which is all of your feedback and comments. I threw a map of the ballpark site in there. I'm sure you're all very familiar with it, but I do always like to mention that the parking lot to the north will be included in this plan. So we're really excited to announce that we'll be partnering with design firm Perkins & Will on this project, or this portion of the project rather. And they are an architecture and an urban design firm that we're going to be working with. They're based out of San Francisco, but they're an international firm. And I happened to pull 2 projects of theirs, master planning projects that include ballparks, coincidentally, but really they're known for their catalytic work. And so here's an example: Mission Rock in San Francisco. They did a master plan for that section across the water to the north. And then they worked on a master plan for Turner Field, the former home of the Braves, in Atlanta, Georgia. So again, all this to say, they're really known for working on these transformational projects. Okay, so let's dive into the nitty-gritty of what the heck is an urban design framework. And the overarching goal of the project is to create a final vision or a detailed roadmap to guide the development of the site. And this roadmap will include multiple elements, such as recommended land uses, both public and private. So should there be open space? What do the private land uses look like? Should there be housing? There will be recommended building envelopes. So where should buildings be located? How big should they be? How tall should they be? There will be programming and partnership recommendations to activate the site, and then potential connectivity recommendations. How do people get to the site? Should there be mid-block walkways? How can transit be enhanced? So it's I kind of think of it as a site plan on steroids, for lack of a better term, but a lot of detail will go into this. So how are we gonna get there? So over the next couple of months, with the consultant, we'll work on this process, and it's kind of divvied up into two phases or two parts. And the first part is to gather and organize and synthesize all this information that we have, because there's a lot out there. We have the station area plan. We have a lot of feedback from this particular community council. We have overarching city plans and whatnot. So they're gonna really look at that and scrub that data and synthesize it. The consultants will also do a health equity site assessment, as health and wellness is one of the things that really came to the forefront with the community visioning process. So that is going to be kind of interwoven in this first part. And then we're also really excited. The scope includes doing a market research study to identify the demand for a sports, recreation, arts, and or entertainment venue. So understanding, like, is there a demand? Is this feasible on the site? So we're really excited about that part. And after this initial research, there will be a large stakeholder meeting and to do a value mapping exercise to prioritize design strategies. The second part then will kind of be a bit more technical. We're working with local engineering firm Kimley Horn to do a transportation site assessment, a civil infrastructure site assessment, and they'll also be looking at the ballpark structure itself and looking at 3 scenarios, including adaptively reusing the ballpark in its entirety, adaptively reusing a portion of the ballpark, and then removal of the structure. And so with this more technical information, they'll hold another stakeholder meeting and do design test fits with those 3 scenarios with the ballpark, and really design test fits are like, what should go where, what makes sense, and that all will be used to draft this urban design framework. At the end of this or process, and I should mention the first stakeholder meeting we hope will happen at the end of August. And then the second stakeholder meeting is planned for mid-November. And then we hope to get a draft together by the end or early next year. That will be presented to the RDA's board of directors, which is the same body as Salt Lake City Council. And that is definitely a time for open public comment. But I will say that McKenna and I will be putting updates on our Ballpark NEXT website, and you can always reach out to us for information. I did want to give you a few examples of what the urban design framework will probably look like. This is kind of that site plan on steroids from the Rio Grande district plan that some of you might be familiar with. And so really there's this overarching site plan, but it will be broken down into a lot of detail. And so I just pulled 2 pages or two site plans from that Rio Grande district plan. So as you can see, one of the pages highlights an active transportation strategy that talks about things like where are the pedestrian priority zones? Where should curbless streets be? Where will alleyways be located? Where will mobility hubs be located rather? And then the second sheet there, it's ground floor activation strategy. So where can different types of businesses be located? Where will maker spaces or a tech center be located? Things of that nature. So it really breaks things down into detail. And then we have, I'm sure you've seen this chart before, kind of outlining the process, but we're on this blue step, and we hope to use this framework to then release requests for proposals to partner with developers to implement the design strategy in phases. So that was, I hope that was helpful, but we're happy to answer any questions you may have now. Yeah.
Intermediate activation.
Yes, that's a great question. This project is not the intermediate activation isn't a part of this scope. I do know that the city is working on it, but we're just not privy to that information and it's not in this part of the project. So I can definitely relay that intermediate activation is a priority to you and hopefully that they'll connect with you.
So what is the timeline looking like for your design firm to finish the plan and then start having construction this time?
Sure, that's a great question. So I would say we hope to have the plan wrapped up in Q1 of 2025. And then I would say the process of releasing an RFP, selecting a developer, and getting a contract in place to break ground probably takes about a year after that. So realistically, I think we're looking at construction in 2026. And I should also say that I do think this will be phased. I think, and we're getting a recommendation from the consultant, like what's a logical phasing strategy. So we have that uses that are built that support each other. And so it all won't be built out at once. It'll be built out most likely in pockets of sorts.
First of all, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And all this hard work. I mean, it's just been so intense and, we really appreciate it. So my question is from a transportation lens right now, which is not my normal lens, so bear with me. So we have this 10-week study happening.
Yes.
We have all of these plans happening with the ballpark, area master plans and things like this, around UTA, parks along UTA lines and things that just are so difficult for us to imagine because they're so big. Enter one more big, massive thing, along with the granary district's new plan, and what we're trying to do at LGS Hospital.
Yes.
So, okay, so we got a lot going on, and we're just wondering, how is this component mixing with all of the, not to mention the Rio Grande Plan. So how do we fit that these things are all going to happen with the Olympics coming? Do you have any timelines, or can you help us understand if we're going to be working full-time jobs doing community feedback, or will they be intermingling with the other projects pretty soon?
I see what you mean in terms of community feedback, because they're all kind of asking you from a different lens about similar areas.
But maybe don't seem to be melding as well as we were kind of hoping. Maybe the people in charge of these projects aren't really talking about the unification of these projects as much as some of the constituents would like.
Yeah, no, that's a great comment and question. And I will say that, a big piece of this particular project is the initial synthesis of information and plans. And we've provided the consultants a long list of the plans that are out there, tackling study, granary, et cetera, et cetera. And then with the stakeholder meetings, we hope to have representatives of all those plans coming together and putting their heads together and voicing their opinion and representing those different plans. So that's the strategy we're kind of taking here. I think, but you're totally right. There's a lot of intermingling there, and I do think we are trying to take this holistic approach and make this a connection to the neighborhood, and all the other things happen, and not an island.
So then maybe I could make a request. So I'm actually the chair of East Liberty Park.
Okay.
Right, and we are trying to get folks to look at connections across the city. So like, for instance, we have corridors that we all share. So if we mess up a corridor down here and people can't get from the west side up, right? So with this, or come back from their jobs, like they're at the University of Utah back to the west side. If we're not really thinking about it as a city, then I think we're gonna have problems, right? So I just would request that, when you're looking at this really awesome project that is ballpark centered, that you get with the other planners, and maybe we can think of public outreach that incorporates constituents from all over the city, that we invite folks, that's just talking about connections.
Yeah.
I'm not saying do the hard work in those public outreach meetings, I'm just asking you to do more connectivity, public outreach. Because people are freaking out, there's just so much stuff going on, and I really do honestly feel like if we share with the constituents, just baby steps of how this is gonna work with this.
Fits with this, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, land use planning and transportation planning should, you know, are connected, it's there, like.
But
I mean,
sometimes not as well as they should be.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like if we can move in that direction, that would be a great gift.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, thanks for that comment. I
Honestly.
really appreciate that, and we'll keep that at the forefront. Appreciate it.
I would say kind of add what you're saying, like, you know, for potentially getting another, you know, sports district, you know, just, I guess Rio Grande or whatever, you know, that's something that I know should consider, you know, in Ballpark, but do we really need another sports complex? And if we do get one, it needs to be truly complementary, not duplicative to what's being done all over the valley already. I mean, there's sports stuff going on everywhere.
Yeah.
And then two, I'm originally from Atlanta itself. I know where Turnerfield was. I mean, there many times as a kid, that whole entire neighborhood struggled with all the volleyball and baseball that was there. Even though the city promised that it would, you know, just give us 20 more years and we're gonna have all this prosperity. It never happened until the ball field left. And now the neighborhood, I guess through this group that you're working with, it's unbelievable. It's one of the best neighborhoods in the city. I've been there multiple times since I've come back to Atlanta. And they've done an amazing job of community after the balls have left. So if they can duplicate like 50% of what they did in Atlanta to Turner Field, it would be a huge win for us. And I ask everyone to go to Turner Field, where the community is now here in Atlanta, because it's an awesome neighborhood.
Will you be our
Feels like
tour
a-
guide?
What?
Can we schedule a trip?
We should all schedule.
Alright.
It's truly amazing. That community really struggled for decades when the field was there. And then once the ballpark left, it's exploded with, you know, shops, restaurants, pubs, coffee shops, public transportation. I mean, everybody wants to go to that part of the city. This is truly in the part of the city. And Atlanta's, you know, ruined by traffic and cars. There's only two places you can go without having to drive in your car and just get stuck in more traffic. So hopefully they can do just as good of a job as they do.
Yeah, that was nice to hear. And yeah, thanks.
We have a question online about, sort of echoes the points that John was making. Is it a priority to turn it into a sports and entertainment?
Oh yeah, that's what I did want to say. No, it's not a priority. But we are doing that market analysis to understand if a sports venue, entertainment of some sort, an event venue is,
It was something that we got from the feedback, like that there was some kind of iconic use in the neighborhood. That's what when we were doing the guiding principles, the information that we got back, a lot of that was mentioned. But too, with doing the three options of looking at, you know, are we keeping the stadium in full? Are we doing a partial, or are we totally demoing it? I think that'll kind of come with these stakeholder meetings and weighing the positive, like the benefits and the challenges or the price tag that comes with these things.
yeah.
Are you guys keeping in mind the winners of the contest? I know that it was never like going to be it, but just the fact that, you know, there were winners, which there were preferred options. Are you guys?
Yeah.
Those?
Popular ideas.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you know, like we tried, one of the big things was bringing those ideas into the guiding principles. And so I feel like too, the whole kind of thought from when we heard the bees were leaving from then on was like trying to make sure that we didn't lose any of these ideas. And so all these thoughts are going to be incorporated, but I guess like at this moment, I can't say like, yes, any one of those parts or which one of those parts are going to be included, but definitely it's all there, like still on the table.
Yeah, it's actually on the list of like documentation that the consultants
Yeah.
go through is the competition and the winners. So yeah, this should be well there. Yeah.
I do have concerns about whether this is gonna be divided up and sold off to developers. And it's kind of, is that what's envisioned with the Miller Foundation? I mean, what is their vision for some of what that fund and how is it supposed to be used?
Yeah, I would say, I think the RDA and the current city council have more of this mindset of retaining ownership of land in all of the work that we do, kind of long term. I don't think we're quite there yet.
Good. I feel that's good to hear.
Yeah, definitely. And so I think that that's our goal from the outset. I think as we get into the nitty gritty of negotiations and things, you know, I don't know how those are gonna end up, but I think that's our goal, is for the city to, the RDA to retain ownership of the land, yeah.
And I also, you know, timing wise, you said there will be this analysis for whether or not you can adaptively reuse this. So it seems like those will be, the design will kind of be based on what you can do with the building.
Yes.
So that, I mean, like, just process wise, that I guess I would think that would, you know, like, come first, or in a sense.
Yes. I'm trying to think of the scope and where everything's at, but yeah, I think there's going to be like indicators of like, how much is this all gonna cost? Each of the three options, and just different, like structural considerations that we'll need to think of with each of the three options. And from there, I think hopefully we suss out what is the best option. So ultimately there'll be one scenario. Yeah.
And this other question is a little more personal.
Yeah.
I do live in the Ballpark Apartments, which is directly west. And that was a development that was approved in 2014. So at that time they were looking, well, anyway, it's kind of like, it's for 55 and above, and it's affordable housing, so there's tax credits. But they were making assumptions that older people weren't going to be driving. So there's 62 units, and there's over 30 parking spaces. So we are parking on the street, and I mean, like, there's at least, you know, maybe over 10 cars out there nightly. One side of the street is residential parking, and then the other side is not posted, but the residential parking is for that area, and we pay a fee for that. But I just want that when they're looking at parking available, that kind of thing, we do use that area that's on, you know, like closer to the building.
Okay.
The ballpark. And right now, you know, like with the games going on, and there's 6 times a week, I'm just like, oh, I got to be home by this time if I'm gonna get caught. Right.
Okay.
But I just, and it's difficult too for deliveries, for you know, the mailman to find parking, for visitors, and that older group of people sometimes needs, you know, at-home health services, so finding parking for them as well.
That is very helpful information. I see McKenna writing that down, and we're going to be doing a parking strategy, a loading and is that what it's called? A loading strategy, but I'll make sure we remember your comments when we're looking at.
I mean, I put it on one of the maps, but well,
That's helpful though.
it's difficult, and I'm just gonna keep bringing it up.
I mean, please do. Yeah.
Still helpful, yeah.
Janice, I think one of the things that we're going to be exploring as a community is what Central Ninth is doing right now, and is exploring we all see that there are permanent parking signs in our neighborhood, but if my experience is like most other folks, I really only see parking enforcement out during Bees games. So as Central Ninth densifies and it used to be the kind of neighborhood where people park and then hop on the tracks to go do their thing, and they can't really sustain that anymore. They need a resident parking permit program for the street. It's only a matter of time before that moves a few blocks south to, the ballpark station, especially as the ballpark station gets redone into one of those pedestrian access from both sides stations. So I think we're probably just going to be looking at how can we, do an equitable resident-oriented parking permit plan for the street in the same way that Central Ninth is exploring now.
Well, but I mean, it goes all the way down West Temple.
Oh,
It's already there, the residential parking with the permit that you have to pay for through transportation. I mean, that's already there, but that designation isn't on the side that's closest to Ballpark, the actual field. So it's just open.
Erica?
Thank you for listening.
No, thank you. So thank you both for being here and thank you for the work that you put into this project thus far. My question really kind of builds on what Christina asked. There's so much going on in the city right now. I mean, we read about a new headline every day of something new happening. How, I live right down the street from the ballpark. How can we make sure that this project stays priority and top of mind for the city? Because I feel like once there's a new shiny object, we go to the bottom of the list. And to be honest with you, we've known about the bees leaving for the past 18 months. Mm-hmm. And so what you're hearing is not frustration at you, it's frustration at the process that we still have not decided, despite many, even before we learned the bees were leaving, in community engagement, stakeholder assessments, etc. So I think my question is really like, how can we help you keep this priority front and center? Because speaking for myself, I just want to see something there that serves the community.
Yeah.
Can I just, before you answer this question, I just saw something up there that was posted in the chat about the appointment of Jesse Dean to be in charge of all of these different plans. So as somebody who has worked with Jesse, many years ago and has been through the planning and has been through, this, I'm on my third master plan. And we still have not executed the things that we started out when my family owned the pickle company in the Gravity, right? So to Erica's point, I think Jesse will do a great job, whatever the mayor wants him to do. But I think we're asking for a little bit more from the city in terms of what are your commitments actually to our communities and our infrastructure, and and not only is Ballpark asking for this, Elko and the east side is asking for this for them, right? So it's something that we really want to know about as a larger city, because we've got the Olympics. And we got
every day there's something to do. Yeah. Okay. So how can we help you keep this priority and top of mind?
And we're side to help. So whatever it takes, we are not negativos. We are.
Yeah. Well, McKenna and I, this is our biggest priority. This is such a priority to the RDA. And we want to see shovels in the ground. I will say that, and I hope that we almost take this personally at the type of project we want to spearhead this and guide this through, and we will champion this with the mayor, with Councilmember Mono. But I would just say, I guess, I feel like it's kind of basic, but just touching base with your council representatives, touching base with the mayor whenever feasible, and just pushing for this. But we will also push for this, and I can relay to the mayor as well that you're looking for specific commitments. I kind of like how you said that, and I think the whole process has been kind of confusing, but I feel like I can see light at the end of the tunnel, and so maybe we can kind of get some clarity and give you more specifics as we go to really, I don't know, get this going. But again, I would just voice your opinion to your elected officials. I feel like that's so basic, but I do think it matters. I mean, Councilmember Mono, I think, is amazing and really takes community feedback to heart. So, as well as the mayor, so.
And we also do right now.
Thank
so,
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
we will really,
Yeah.
we will do our best.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing that. Thank you. Yes, that's what we want. We just want you to keep moving. Keep moving.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes, let's see more people.
Looks like there's a question here too.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's exactly the right setting, but I'm wondering if, you know, if there is no sports use of the ballpark anymore, does it make sense to call a neighborhood ballpark anymore? Maybe that could be a way of generating interest. The whole renaming of the area, it's sort of vestigial at that point.
I mean, I feel like that's more your guys' call. I mean, I don't know, it is for you guys to consider, but I mean, I guess like one thing I will say is, in the last, community feedback thing that we did, there was this strong feeling towards recognition of the past and like kind of holding on to, and not holding on to, just recognizing that this was here and it's been here for so long, and so even if we do get rid of it, some sort of like just honoring of that. So
yeah, and I think it is worth saying that this ballpark is really historic.
Yeah.
The way that a lot of other ballparks aren't.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate to see it just sort of abandoned.
We could be like a symbol of a ballpark, formerly known as ballpark.
So some recognition, but also at the same time, I don't know, it's a product.
No, it's good. It's definitely a good value.
I just want to say, and you both know this because a polite way to put it would be that I've been a squeaky wheel, but probably a more accurate thing to say is I pestered you for a few months about coming to chat to us. I was very nervous about how long it took to see who would be working on this project, but some of the projects that this architect has worked on, I mean, they include things I've heard of, right? Like the National African American History Museum, research buildings in like life science research buildings in California, actual transformative projects, because I want to see things that aren't a ballpark, because we're having like that vision, right? But so it's very exciting to see some of the things that this firm has done and what might happen, because they really are transformative, and I'm really optimistic that what could happen in that space could be really unique and interesting. So
This is why we're so excited for this big reveal.
Yeah.
You guys just.
Well, I'm glad that you are that you see it too, because I mean, we also feel the same about. I think they have shown great work.
And I say this, and Brandy knows this, we were in a meeting just yesterday about the new downtown hospital, so was Christina, where we talked about, where other folks in the room talked about, so was Janice, the need for transformative, beautiful architecture in Salt Lake, and how there isn't as much of that as some people would like there to be. We can all name examples, right? We can name the city library, we can name the Natural History Museum, but you know.
Rio Grande Depot.
But I feel like we're potentially setting the stage for another one of Salt Lake City's great buildings. And we'd really like to host that.
Can we just emphasize this here, because I know, we were at this meeting and there was this moment from where Glenn, who's the chair of, he is Capitol Hill. And, you know, there's so much talk from our community council and from, oh my gosh, everyone talks about community benefits, which is, you know, the city council. We have to thank them for this concept of community benefit in our land use changes. But Glenn was like, you know, really awesome buildings should be considered a community benefit, you know, not just like open space or not just, you know, these things, but really just significant architecture, which we get a lot of complaints that we're lacking in Salt Lake. I'm not from here, so it really never like occurred to me that a lot of folks from here are mourning losses, a lot of their specific or their cool buildings. So, you know, thank you, Glenn, from far away.
Very
Glenn. Great.
Tony.
I have a TED Talk recommendation that you will all really like. I just listened to it. How Buildings Can Improve Life Inside and Out.
Oh, nice.
By Doris Sung. It is fascinating, some of the ideas that she has to truly make buildings work for humans instead of just being bricks. So yes, TED Talks daily. It came out July 27th. Check it out, or I can share it with you.
That's awesome.
Maybe in the chat.
Or I would just say open space can do the same too with
true.
Oh, of course.
design.
I mean, that's kind of great. I didn't mean to finish the concept of it.
Do you all have the support of UDOT regarding, you know, like potential like congestion due to increased pedestrian access across 1300 South? Like, you know, combining those two thoughts, or what's the kind of plan with that? Because I know that UDOT roads, I've been told by Councilman Lamar, are difficult to reach.
Yeah,
The cars must flow.
yeah, it is, but UDOT's one of the stakeholders that we plan to intentionally engage with and really suss out what we can do there. So we don't know now, but will be a part of this process.
So they haven't been given commitments yet or anything like that to like increase the access of the, you know, to the marshes.
Control 13 South.
It's not the city, isn't it?
I think it's.
I think it's, I'm not 100%, but I always thought it was a city front street. 1300 South is actually.
No, you're saying that? I looked into this like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
1300 South, no,
It's UDOT.
I think so.
We'll double check, but I mean, they're definitely, they have to be a stakeholder, you know, and any plan we kind of do will absolutely be to involve them.
There's other documents I've looked at where they have said, yeah, 1300 South is not city.
Okay, I'm like almost 100% sure, but I will
I
definitely.
know that the sewer is not, like the groundwater is pretty.
I'll look at it.
That's where like all the creeks.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Right, so the underground is.
I'll just make it up for sure.
All right, we have another exciting plan presentation that I don't want to cut too much into, but I do know this is the main focus of. I know we are going to be really interested in an intermediate activation plan. You know, we've heard that like the site is not going to become a public safety risk. It's not going to sit empty for years. It sounds like a really transformative plan means that there's going to have to be a significant intermediate activation step. My personal dream is 10 pickleball courts.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how wouldn't
That'll be
it
active
easy to
24/7, 365.
Yes, talking about
With the dog park, oh yes.
low equity, man, low barriers to
You got the light already set up, so.
Public utilities is gonna move.
Oh, that's
I-
pickle parks.
No.
Yeah, just put people in front of Ballpark and all the signs.
Nickel.
It's over there. It'll be fine. It'll be just, I'm not saying forever. I'm saying that would work as an intermediate activation and everybody would be happy.
And your big event is you host the pickleball, national championships.
Yes.
Boom.
Well,
Great.
okay, I guess
Okay, that's, sorry, I just had to bark out my dream. It's hard to hold in. I want it so bad. Anyway.
Thank you guys.
What's that other building that we care? Come on, Rio Grande.
I mean,
We don't.
as you know, my slides in the back, I like to stand, so
Have a routine, like a floor routine.
I guess I like to pace. I'm a very big mover, so,
Okay.
do we have the ability to present?
Yep, let me.
If you,
So real quick, while he's getting this up, I'm Frederick Jenny. I'm a resident of downtown community council. I've been here for 8 years, so I'm also not a true Salt Lake native. And I've been involved with the Rio Grande Plan for about 9 or 10 months now, I think, close in there. And I'm the director of engagement. So my goal is to kind of move around and talk to people and engage with political officials, say the RDA, government entities, that type of thing. I'm going to put these down here because all of those are my slides, my props for the end of the slides. We're an all citizen volunteer organization. We aren't even 501c3 because none of us have time to file a paperwork for 501c3. So the Rio Grande Plan is a net negative project. So we're a no profit organization.
Net negative profit.
Net negative. So everybody knows Rio Grande Depot. It is, I'll get more into it, but can we go to the next slide real quick? Just kind of just roll into it. So, arriving in Salt Lake City, this is what you truly expect. Anybody, tourists, whatever, this is what you expect. Show me the next slide, and this is what you get. Honestly, that is truly what you get here in Salt Lake City. Over the viaducts, right over the railroad yards. Anytime you're coming into Salt Lake City via, if it's the airport, if it's by train, if it's by car, this is what you're greeted with. So I'm going to quickly talk a little bit about some of the downtown current conditions. Can you give me the next slide? So underserved areas in downtown, we have 4 highway style viaducts, North Temple, 400 South, 500 South, 600 South. And they're all meant to just dump cars over the railroad tracks and get them into downtown, which makes sense, right? You've got to get over the thing easiest way. They're abandoned industrial buildings, a lot of underused and things all around our central station, if I will. And an unwelcoming experience to downtown if you're coming by rail, if you're coming by car, you're just having to deal with that, most people from outside of Salt Lake are like, it's not really, I don't want to go to Salt Lake because that's what they see. They don't see the vibrant communities that we have in Salt Lake City. So the next slide, please. The other thing is the downtown railroad crossings. I don't have it on this slide because we updated recently some information. There are about 50,000, I think we said 50,000 cars that go back and forth just on the railroad tracks. Coming into Salt Lake in general, it's 160,000 cars daily going over these railroad tracks between the viaducts and the railroad crossings. These railroad crossings cause a socioeconomic divide because the freight trains, as you see in that upper corner, they sit there. They will just sit there and wait. And sometimes people get tired of waiting and the pedestrians will go underneath the freight train, go across only to be met with a front runner train that's going about 80 miles an hour. So, and I know it's dark, but we've had deaths, one most recently on the 4th of May. So this truly is a big issue and it's just going to get worse because right now we're at 500 daily activations of the crossings. We're looking at around 800 to 1,000 in the next 10 to 20 years. As we approach the Olympics, the expansion of the Olympic will add more freight trains. The expansion and double tracking the front runner will double the amount of front runner trains running up and down the valley. So, next, please. I'm trying to processing. This one's fun. This one has a lot of animation, so I'm gonna need you to just quickly just kind of go through it. So let's say the freight train leaving the sorry, geez, I'm out of it. Leaving our inland port going towards the North Yard. It has to go through downtown. So it starts out, it moves through downtown, and it passes all those railroad crossings on its way north. All right, so that's a lot. Next, you have another train. Let's say it's going south to the Roper Yard, and it goes through all of those crossings. That's not including any of the stuff south of downtown. So Ballpark, anything on the way toward that, because that is around 2100 south. So you have a lot of movement in these with these freight trains, with the expansion of the inland port. They have to go from the inland port to one of these 2 yards, because that's where all the trains are classified to go out to the rest of the country. So no matter what we do, the trains are going to go through downtown. So, and as the inland port expands, as the economy gets bigger, things are going to keep happening where there are more trains. You had it, you were good. This is our lovely central station. It lies on the absolute edge of downtown, flanked by freeway-style viaducts, railroad tracks, and has been in service since 1999, when we pulled up the railroad tracks from the Rio Grande Depot and moved them here, because we wanted to cut back the freeway viaducts so we could have more room for gateway greenery, so that those would become more active. So we had to cut back the freeway off ramps at 500, 600 south from 300 west to 500 west. And having railroad tracks immediately after you get off the freeway is not conducive with flow of traffic. So, and this was also supposed to be a temporary alignment. 1998, City Council intended to return passenger trains to the Rio Grande Depot at a later date, when they could figure out an engineering solution to getting the trains back there. And also, this lacks any passenger amenities like bathrooms, shelter, food, anything that you want. It's a double wide trailer for Amtrak passengers. Triple wide. Oh, triple wide, sorry. We're feeling luxury here. And that was put in 25 years ago. So we've had a temporary station there for 25 years.
Amtrak.
Next, please.
There it is.
There they are. So that is the Amshack. It leaves people out in the cold for the winter. It leaves people out in the heat for the summer. It's just not fun. And there's a reason why it has half the ridership that North Temple does. North Temple Station has double the ridership that this central station does. Next, please. So the future, which is, of course, the Rio Grande Plan. At least that's what we believe. Next, please. So what is the Rio Grande Plan? We've been talking about it. A lot of people don't quite understand it. So currently, the trains run along 600 west. Historically, they ran on 500 west. And so our proposal is to create a train box, which is a underground box, almost like a cut and cover tunnel, that would run from down here around 13 all the way north to 600 and out to 1000 west. It would take care of all of these railroad crossings, which you see in Exodus, and take care of the viaducts that you see at the blocks. Our picture does not show North Temple, 400 north and 300 north. It will also open 3 streets that are currently and have always been cut off in our city grid. 200 north. Is it 50 north? Is it 50 north or 50 south? Can't quite remember off the top of my head. It's one of those 2 in the middle there. And then also it will allow for 700 south to be connected. So the idea is to cut back all the freeway viaducts as well. You can probably cut them back to 600 west, maybe even 700 west, depending on the alignment. And the idea is to return passenger traffic to the Rio Grande Depot. Next slide, please. There we go. And so this is the vision right here. And this right here in the corner is a current uncovered train box active in Reno. Reno has one and we don't have one. No offense, Reno. But if you even look here in this animation, you can see that a city bus actually passes right over the tracks, which only happens in 2 places in the city today. One that goes, well, 3. One that goes over North Temple, one that goes over 400, and then the 9 line, which goes down to the railroad tracks, over to 13 South, up and over 13 South, back to 9, and then down the rest of the way. Because UTA buses do not cross railroad crossings at grade because the freight trains get in their way. So this is a little bit of a breakdown of what the box looks like. The idea is to have 2 tracks for UTA. Those are front runner tracks, 1 for Amtrak for possible expansion of Amtrak service, and 3 for Union Pacific to expand their freight service, with these, of course, always being available for Amtrak because that's the deal that UP and Amtrak have. About 40 feet down, leaving room for utilities. The city has, this is from the city's vision. So for those who don't know, the city partnered with Kimley Horn, same group who's going to be doing stuff on Ballpark NEXT. They basically gave $100,000, said, please give us a cost and impact analysis, which great, we got a cost, but you know, they missed the other half of the equation, which is the economic benefit, and that kind of doesn't help with press. They love the cost, but nobody ever talks about the economic benefit. So the idea is to cover it. Part of it is going to be open in some places for ventilation, but where in the downtown core, it is going to be completely covered. If you press next 3 times, it's going to do that. So next, please. So our new future front door is the Rio Grande Depot, built in 1910. It's almost 114 years old. On the 20th, it turns 114. It's currently under massive renovation. It was damaged in the 2020 earthquake. It's getting brand new foundation. The roof got reinforced, and the walls are all being reinforced, and it's owned by the state. The state is putting all that money in there. Millions of dollars going into a building that, after they finish it, has no future use. Kind of similar to, I mean, what the bees did to the ballpark, right? Mm-hmm. It used to host state offices, and they all are going to be moved to the state capitol, leaving this building by itself. And so we like to say, well, we have a solution for what we can do with the building. We can make it a train station again. Next, please. This is what we imagine. Now, this is just a theory, because a lot of people get hung up on this. They're like, that's ugly architecture. You don't want that, or something like that. I run the Instagram, so I get a lot of those comments. But this is kind of the idea here, right? You have a much smaller 500 West with active bike lanes, walkability, essentially the mayor's green loop, integrating the Rio Grande Plan with the green loop concept. And then underground here, this is your train station. And I think the next slide has one, but not yet. Yeah, it does. So you can see the depot sitting right up there. And then the idea is you guys go right down into a covered station underground. So no snow bothering you. We'll have to work on the sun because it's glass. But the idea is you can go down there, get a train directly to Ogden, down to Provo, hopefully Tooele, maybe an Amtrak train to Moab. Just saying, just ideas. Next, please. So integration with other projects. I know that's a hot topic, right? Integration with all of the other stuff that's going on in downtown. Next, please. So this is the region, right? I think Ballpark is right here, right? So we don't really have anything focusing on that right now because we had to make a lot of room for all the stuff downtown. So the first thing, front runner double track. So they're double tracking front runner, it's happening. Next, Tech Link. They're going to be, if you see here, we have the orange line running all the way out to the airport. Then we have the Main Street Promenade, where the mayor is working on getting Main Street as pedestrian only. After that is Temple Square, which is one of our hottest tourist destinations. The Entertainment District, which is always a hot topic. The Green Loop, the Power District, then the Olympics, of course, and finally, sitting in the middle is the Rio Grande Depot, in the middle of everything.
This is not a happy fix, right?
Why not?
Because, our entire 9-line and 9-line up things, this thing goes right down the middle. It's not one of your happy.
This is future. The 9 line's there. Right now. The 9 line is already there. It's right here. It's right here.
And this will grade separate the 9.
That's the 9 line. You won't have those awkward turns. I won't have those. I know you are. You won't have those awkward turns because the railroad tracks won't be there, and the 9 line can be just a straight shot.
Temple Square is also already there.
Yeah, so that.
It's under construction right now.
It's valid.
Thank you.
I didn't really want to interrupt, but I do honestly really, again, want to plug that. Do you notice that we are not connecting the east side in this realm here? So, if you throw the 9 line on there and then connect to the University of Utah, I would be 100%.
So so to give you perspective, this is all of this right here. This is a train box. That's all underground. So there are seamless connections back and forth between east and west. So
I just want to pop up video on this.
I did have it. I did take it out because it made it really big. We had a whole video where it runs down. It's a whole thing. Next, please. So talking about more integration, right? We're talking about TechLink here. This is the preferred option by UTA. This is where the orange line goes down to Central Station and then up and around the airport. We, as the
Sorry, when you say it's the preferred option, is this like the first one?
this
on the website?
alternative
Is this-
one.
Okay,
This
that's,
is their preferred alternative one, and I think it's somewhere on here where I put it, but
thanks.
so if we hit the next one, it kind of says, hey, that's extra traffic going to Central Station. And that, you know, just in general, again, nobody goes to Central Station. Most people go to North Temple, which it was going to go to anyway if it goes down 400 West. Next, please. So we propose that it turns and goes down 400 West, and that would be easy integration with the Rio Grande Plan in the future. And there's already going to be a realignment of the green line to go to Central Station. So if someone wanted to go to Central Station, they could take the green line. So this is alternative 3 for UTA's proposal. So we have been saying it's lower cost, faster headways, easy integration with Rio Grande Plan, because instead of turning a bunch to go to Central Station on the orange line, you are essentially going to just bypass it and go faster to and have faster times to the airport, which then connects to the University of Utah. Next, please.
So, I love your presentation. I always love your presentations. You are one of the best presenters.
Thank
in
you.
the city. Okay. But I really just want to emphasize again, is that, half of our city, until we get the west side built up and those amenities over there on the west side, Ballpark here is core. This is the heart of our city. And so we transport people every single day for both high school, because there are no west side high schools, as well as University of Utah and, all of the tech, all of the research parks.
Yep.
Every single day, people are just amassing,
Yep.
right, back and forth. So thus, right, when we're emphasizing these connections and we're leaving out the west all the way to the east, I think we're not presenting the best strategy that we can.
This removes the barrier between the railroad tracks are they're bigger than the freeway because you cannot go back by them. And this plan takes care of that. By putting the tracks underground from essentially 900 south all the way up to 600 north, you have created that seamless move back and forth. West High, you don't have to go over that pedestrian bridge anymore, right? If you're going to high school from the west side, if you're a student who lives on the west side, you can bike without being interfered up the 9 line. All of those things are possible with this plan. And we're just talking generally here. It's a little bit more specific where we're talking about how it moves completely. I'm almost done with this, and then we'll go into questions, okay? Single connection to the state. This is kind of a breakdown of what it would look like at the station, where it would be seamless, moving between the tracks, buses, and trains. I know everybody's getting we're doing a lot here. Positive reuse of the historic building and pioneer history, and it would bring Salt Lake City up from, oh, welcome to Salt Lake City, you're on a concrete plane with a triple wide trailer, to welcome to Salt Lake City at our grand train station. It's a third place. There's stuff to do here. People want to be here. People want to take the train. Less cars in downtown, more walkability, more bikeability. Next, please. So what are we doing as a volunteer group? We have a lot of stuff going on in the next 2 months. We're presenting to, I and a bunch of the other volunteers are presenting to the Salt Lake County Council on Tuesday at 4 o'clock. The next day, we are doing both Sugar House and Central City Community Council meetings. We are also doing Glendale on the 21st, Fair Park on the 22nd, and then September 12th, we're having an event on the west side at the Sorensen Multicultural Center at, is it 6 p.m.? Yes, 6 p.m. And that's open for everybody. And we encourage people to come because it'll be something, it basically will be these slides again, but we really are encouraging people to come out, talk about it, and write their elected officials, because that's what really needs to happen. Is we need more people to start talking about it. And then the last one on the 16th of September, we've been invited to present to the State Transportation Committee up on the hill during their interim session. So that also open to the public. It's in the day, it's like 8:30, so I know it's really early, but it's on a Wednesday, so you could have an excuse to skip work if you want. Next. So getting involved, it's kind of hard to get a QR code with the other people here, but we have a QR code that takes you to our link tree. There we have a petition, we have a Discord server, we have abilities to contact your elected officials. We also have our official booklet. And what we really ask you to do mainly is to get involved, contact your elected officials, city council members, mayor especially, because we really want to get that moving. We have postcards here. If people want to write a postcard to the mayor or your council member or even your state official, I've got a list of the people. You can write it right now and I'll postmark it for you. Back there, Nathan's got brochures, which we have here, informational brochures and the postcards. We also encourage you to contact the state transportation and Olympic committees and tell your friends and neighbors, because we don't have the resources of billionaires who go to big meetings and talk about big stadiums and other things. We're just a bunch of people who want to help improve our community. And so that's why we're here. We're here to be with the community, and thanks for having us. Really appreciate it. No more questions. I might be pointing to the back because I have a bunch of people here who are somewhat smarter than I am. So any questions?
Tell us about what those train boxes that we've heard of have done for East-West equity or North-South equity or whatever in those cities. Why did those cities choose to invest whatever gajillions of dollars a train box costs? Just
further.
What did that do for that city in terms of equity, since that's your big argument?
Yeah.
Talk about some
keep going. Yeah, you got to just keep going a little bit to be extra. I know I got a lot of detail on these. These are similar projects. Oh, one more. 2 more. Stop. Reno had 2 mainline tracks running through their downtown, Union Pacific, and essentially what happened was, I think it was 8 railroad crossings through downtown, 8 to 10, and this is right. You don't see it here because the trains are moving. They sit there. Nathan was there like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
So that specific train, you see the grain train going by. Prior to that video, I had seen it pulling in. I walked all the way to the end of the train box, taking a picture of it at every crossing, and walked back to where I took this video before it started moving. That train was stopped there for over an hour. In the middle of downtown, and I was probably the only one who knew about it.
And these disconnect 2 sides. These run right through the center of Reno. And in 2005, they had enough, and this is what it used to look like.
That crossing with the train and the sign, I apologize, is actually the one, I believe it's the one past the bridge you see right in the foreground, is where that train picture there is.
And so what happened was they said enough's enough. We have trains sitting here, we're cutting off our community because they have a business district on one side and an entertainment district on the other side, and nobody could get through because the trains would come through at all hours of the night. They sit there because there's a yard right by it, just like kind of what we have where there are 2 yards on north and south. They have to wait to go in. Same thing happened here. And now they're starting to cap this. So they're actually starting to put tops, just like what we proposed, where they're putting tops on it so that they can have parks and community spaces all in their downtown. So it's done a lot. It's not the only one that exists in the country. There's also one from LA, which is the next one. And that one is a 10-mile long one that runs from the ports of LA and Long Beach all the way to downtown. It's only for freight trains to make sure they can get all of the freight from our port up to their classification yards. That one closed 200 grade crossings. So it saves lives, it reconnects communities, and it makes things just in generally more desirable for people. No train horns in the middle of the night, which we get a lot of. So
I get the theory, but did it stimulate, like, do you have evidence that it stimulated economic development in those cities? Did you see suddenly people saying like, well, instead of building this in the suburbs, we're gonna reinvest and put this downtown since it's reconnected?
Denver.
Denver slides.
You want to go back to? So this is Denver. This is Denver downtown. Their station is right here. You see it right there. And they had a rail yard sitting right here. Go back one. This is what it looks like today. They built an underground bus depot right here. And then above it, they put big high rises for people to work in. And ours is going to be better because their trains actually have to back in and then go out. Ours will just go straight through. If you hit the next slide, you can see the numbers for vacancy rates, where the entire city has a 21% vacancy rate, and then the area around Union Station is 11. I've been there, Matt's been there, a lot of us have been there. It's beautiful, and it's alive. People want to go there, people want to sit down, people want to just be in that area, and it's really nice. So yes, it has stimulated growth. This is not exactly a train box. This is somewhat a little bit different than that. This is the redevelopment, but in order to get this, we have to build a train box because we have to open up the rail yard that's downtown.
And we have more redevelopment potential for this.
Yeah, this was 19 and a half acres for 75.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can put a stadium there instead if you want.
Well, we need another one though.
Yeah. They build it. If we get an NFL team, we'll just put it there instead, right?
So I feel your pain on the park trains, because if anyone's if you go down west on 1300 South, that's just right outside of the Roper Yard. If there's ever a train there, I never get it.
Yeah.
You just don't do it. So that, does this go to 1300 South, did you say?
It starts going down at 13 South. I think maybe a little bit further in the city plan.
So hopefully there's something to get 1300 South.
I think it's worth mentioning, I think downtown, the big problem isn't just the pass-through tracks, there's also the rail yard tracks. And so that ameliorates all of that. For these other crossings like 13 South and I don't know, 27 South, 33rd South, UTA plans to grade separate those anyway. I don't know how they're gonna do it.
That's good news.
But that's in their plan, because if they want to make front runner more frequent, more reliable, they have to do it.
And the other question I have is just general ideas on funding. How does the funding work to pay?
So,
great idea.
What it really is right now, we're kind of looking toward the state and the federal government with the Reconnecting Communities Grant, which the city is supposed to kick off here soon, we hope. They're working on the federal, that's how you can get some of the federal money. But there's, what did we say? $3 trillion in federal money available to be asked for. All mayor and the state, the mayor, the governor, the state have to do is just ask for it. Say, Rio Grande Plan is something we want. We like it, we back it, please help us fund it. And then they put in their money and the federal government puts in their money and we can build it. That's very, very simplified, but the Olympics are coming. So the Olympics are coming. We've already spent $2 billion on a baseball stadium and an entertainment district. They've committed it. Yeah. So
and we're engaged in all this outreach already at the city, county, and state level. It just requires a lot of grassroots coalition support to build up more of a broad base in which we can then get this actually rolling. So we're doing that outreach. We just need to keep building support like we're doing here tonight, right now. We're not coming to you with the answers with a paternalistic top-down we got this solution and we're telling you what's gonna happen. We're relying on communities and broad support like in this room to get this done.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning, I don't think the federal government is just gonna come pay for the whole thing, but there's opportunities for like, private investment for sure, because there's a lot of money to be made there. There's also like tax increment financing, where it's like this land is worth like nothing for where it is. The land value of this, unused land basically is gonna go through the roof, and the city can actually capture some of that value to pay it back. Unlike a freeway project can actually pay for some of its own costs. A freeway project is just revenue negative.
Yeah, it's $4 billion to build from Farmington to Salt Lake City, and you demolish homes and you lose land, and you'll really never recoup that investment. So,
Operation Ranch.
She's
been having.
Okay.
Yeah, I just was waiting for the we're having a hard time on the east side garnering support for this project, right? So even though people like me, who my whole life is about breaking down barriers to education, and I live right at East High School, and the school district has been importing kids from the west side for 35 years, right? Like my entire passion has gone into this. And sadly, I'm having a hard time garnering support for something that, would really assist us up there in East Liberty Park. Part of the problems are, one is that this area in Denver is also used as an example of things that don't work in terms of vacancies, right? So, that has been sort of a question. But the big thing is that the mayor, the RDA just put out this great Rio Grande project, the redevelopment of the station that doesn't include this, right? So people are really having their hard time wrapping their heads around this really potentially good project, because again, the presentation isn't aiming towards answering some of those questions that I think good citizens, need to have answered in order to start to buy into it. And again, I'm just making suggestions for just slight changes in the presentation that would help reel in potential East Side customers to your, and especially if you help us draw the connection between the Rio Grande Plan and the Rio Grande Plan.
So,
Can I
you wanna? Yeah.
So, to expand on and answer your question, I'm also someone who I think is an analogous figure to yourself. I live basically where you live. I live close to East High. So hello neighbor, nice to meet you. I want to talk after this actually. What got me super interested in this is that this is the only, and I'm not being hyperbolic by the way, I'm being serious. This is the only serious proposal that I have seen in any capacity to bridge the east-west divide in a real physical infrastructural way. I have seen and heard so many proposals over the years as a fellow longtime Salt Lake City resident, where it's like, let's build an art project on the west side about how we're together as a city. Let's increase, bus service that crosses these roads that are always separated by the train. Let's build a community council so we can talk about our shared experiences. None of that is an infrastructure, concrete, real way to bridge the divide. This buries a major infrastructural, physical separation that then creates an economic, cultural, and social separation. No other plan that I have seen to date is a serious proposal to do so. It's the only one. And yes, we could probably do a better job messaging that with that much clarity, but this is it.
Okay, so, bring that. That's what I'm saying. Bring that. Kind of upset that I'm the chair of the East Liberty Park Community Organization, right? So I represent
And
there in that area.
For sure.
And I have talked to many people in your organization over and over and over. So bring that. That's it. You hit it tonight after, several months.
Yeah. All right. So you're doing the next 5 community council meetings.
I'll clear my schedule.
So one of the things that we have talked about ad nauseum in Ballpark and Central Ninth is something that you got to talk about, our love of the Ninth South off ramp and how it divides our communities. We can't get rid of it because the city, or not the city, excuse me, the state invested in restructuring and resupporting it physically in what, like 2018? Very, very recently. So although we have done the studies that are very, you know, like a small level, analogous to this, like it'd pay for itself if we got rid of it, you know, it'd be a great way to unite the neighborhoods. Look at all this real estate we would get back. You know, I've heard these arguments before, just on a smaller, just about the off ramp. But this, we can never get UDOT to agree to it after, you know, millions of dollars were so recently invested. Long preamble. What is important not to do to make the Rio Grande Plan still feasible? What are the 9th South off ramps that need to not be invested in so that the Rio Grande Plan can move forward and people won't point to those things?
Do you want that?
Yeah, so there's a few things. There's a lot of complementary projects that sort of need to be staggered in better order. So the city shows the green loop being on 5th West, for example. Now, if they build that prior to the Rio Grande Plan, the Rio Grande Plan can still be built, but you're going to have to tear it all up and do it again. So that's probably the most shining example. Another one that's often brought up that's less of an issue is that the city is investing in pedestrianizing the 4th South Viaduct a little better. And that's one where, I mean, sure, it's a relatively small investment to ease the divide while projects like the Rio Grande Plan get done. But I'd say the Green Loop is probably one that needs to be better coordinated, along with that Rio Grande District vision that the city has. That's an amazing complementary project that will work very well with the Rio Grande Plan if the vision is included.
Which it's currently, supposedly it's going to be, there's going to be an update.
Yeah.
From what I understand, that I think Councilmember Morton told me that y'all will be updating the vision to include at least a mention of the Rio Grande Plan.
That's right.
No, I was going to make a comment about UDOT's hesitancy or outright, refusal, get rid of 9 or South exit. And it's just classic case of sunk cost fallacy. We put so much money into this, and even though, it's totally bad thing to do, because we put this money into it, we're going to just keep drilling forward, even though it's completely sunk cost fallacy.
And that's UTA's reaction right now with their central station. They believe that it is, we've been there, we're not going to give up, we're going to keep trying to make it happen. Yeah. And well, what is it? Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen. Wow. Stop trying to make central station happen. It's not going to happen.
Can I ask one more question?
He's had his hand up for a while. Sorry.
Yeah, I had a question. So you remarked that 1300 South was a train crossing. My understanding is that 1300 South has that overpass. Were you talking about 1700 South?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're
because
right.
that's
Yeah.
1700 South
I
is
said
like.
1300, I meant 1700.
Yes, why this, that's I guess, and then, so there's a couple things. One is, I feel like there was a news story, or maybe it was you all that did it, I don't know, be surprised if it's not your backup site, of the amount of person hours that are spent waiting in these train crossings. And then so that might be an interesting thing to look at. I thought someone tallied it, because it's. Yeah, and then one thing is, it's why does it not extend to 1700 South to cover almost the entirety of Salt Lake City? Because 1700 South with that new window, the park out window, that's and then as far as ease of pedestrian routes, with cycling routes for people who live near South Salt Lake, between essentially 21st South and the 9 line, 1700 South is a really nice, flat, easy way to get to the west side that is often stop and then with the train, and then you have to go over to 1300 South. That's the easiest one. I had a friend who did that and got doored while on that overpass, on their bike, because it's it's a stressful. That's a stressful one to go over.
No, I understand.
So
to answer your question, is that good?
And then it's there's the Parley's option, but that's it's kind of a bit meandery. The 300 West, it seemed to be an oversight across the 300.
Yeah, so to answer your question about why the box hasn't been extended down there, originally Christian Lenhart, who's here, he's the original guy who came up with the whole plan. He doesn't like being brought up. He doesn't like this, but his perspective was take care of downtown right now and let things go further into the future. That's because the section in downtown, can we,
Which were on the communities includes all the way down there.
the other, yeah. So see here, right about here at 100 South, and then go back one more. Going all the way here, the train tracks run here currently, right? And then they continue to run up here. Christians started here and went down and over because by doing that, you wouldn't be interfering with the freight rail. You wouldn't be interfering with Front Runner the way it works today. And his original, during the construction, because then you're not interfering with national commerce and passenger traffic moving through the valley. Salt Lake City expanded upon Christian's original vision and came up with the Kimley-Horn analysis, which goes essentially from 15 all the way through here and then up north to 600 north and out to 900 west. So theoretically, it can always be expanded, but that comes with cost and it comes with engineering and those type of things and deconfliction with Union Pacific. This area right here is going to be one of the most contentious parts of the plan because it has to interrupt the freight traffic. And so
there may be ways
to get around it, but those type of ways that we may be able to get around it may not be able to work for 17. We don't know. And so right now it's in its infancy. This is not final by any means. And it's definitely not guaranteed. We're not coming in and saying, yeah, we're going to be redoing Delta Center and we're doing what we need to do. We're just kind of bringing the concept up through the grassroots and bringing it up rather than coming down. Well, because I don't have $1 billion to spend on anything. So I wish I did, or else this would have already been started. But
it's saying that like for this alignment, I think the train box is the best solution. For other places that may not see as much traffic, maybe an overpass or an underpass would work, maybe another train box would work.
And we haven't really talked about it. It's like the train literally stops at 17th South. I think because they're so long, they'll stop and then they'll back up. Like my uncle lives out on the west side. I used to live out with
same thing happens. Same thing happens.
We haven't thought that far out because our focus has been on this. What we think is the wrong alignment for the trains, basically.
And to get the trains back to the depot also.
Yeah.
Because a passenger experience is also important as well. And revitalizing that area is, I think, important too.
I have a burning itch on this one.
Okay, go for it.
So getting down to 17th South, I agree that it's critical that we do eventually separate that. It is part of the reconnecting communities study. It's not just Rio Grande Plan. One of the things worth noting here, of course, is that 17th South is right at the edge of the Rover Yard, Union Pacific's Rover Yard. And so logistically having the train box as it is extend all the way down there and then come up into the yard would probably either be infeasible or make Union Pacific very unhappy. So it's definitely going to be worth looking at multiple options to separate that specific crossing. Because I agree, it's right by my office. It's a pain in the butt when you get stuck there. The train's coming in down.
But that being said, you brought up a good point. The Reconnecting Communities Grant, when it gets kicked off, it's a study in the Salt Lake City transportation is going to be going out in the community, much like everybody, we are here today, asking for community feedback. And I would hope that you would go to them and say, look, 1700 South is a problem as well as these other ones. And maybe even more because it sits at the opening of the yard. And essentially all what we're trying to do is we're saying, let's engage, let's talk, let's get this moving, because unless people start saying things, we don't have a super champion who's able to run out and go, we're going for it, this is happening. It's a group of 7 or 8 guys who are trying to make it happen here, and that's it. So we're trying the best we can, and we just need the community, if the community supports it, to help us make it happen. So any more questions? I know it's fairly late. Do you have?
I was just wondering, what's your current buy-in from your train partners?
From Union Pacific and Amtrak and UTA?
Yeah, I know it's like, still ground up kind of, so it's.
You want that?
Yeah,
or do you want Christian?
Oh, Christian's willing. I think better.
I would go look into the Kinderhorn feasibility study or screen analysis. There's pages and pages of meeting minutes where the engineers who did that study have conversations with the various railroads as to what assets they would need. That study incorporated basically everyone's wish list items. The railroad said, okay, if we're going to agree to this plan, here's what we want. And the engineers at Kinderhorn were able to make it all work. So even with everyone's high level demands, this concept is still feasible. So there's, I'd say, a tacit agreement already for doing this, but again, it needs more civic leadership in order for this to happen.
It needs more community engagement, civic leadership. Thank you, Christian. Anybody else?
This is a real pie in the sky question, but like, I've never known off the top of my head who my Secretary of Transportation is before, like that nationally. But I do know now.
I 3 letters and still haven't heard back yet.
Bless your heart.
Waiting.
But seriously, now that there is like a guy that a lot of people know, is there any vague sense that were he to continue in that role or similar, that there's going to be like some great train manna from heaven? This is really a weird question, but I just don't know about train things.
We've seen a large investment in rail, the largest investment in rail since Amtrak was created. And today, they're expanding, they're looking, in fact, I think we're looking at possibly getting 2 more Amtrak routes through Utah. One going LA, Vegas, Provo, Salt Lake, Ogden, over to, and correct me if I'm wrong, over to Cheyenne and down to Denver, and the other one coming down from Seattle, Portland, Boise, Ogden, Salt Lake, Provo, and over to Denver.
Okay, so we're not
To the
getting
south.
trains.
Well, we're getting 3.
Yeah,
That's 3. Yeah, we're getting a lot. So with the Olympics coming, there's always the option to expand it. And in my opinion, and this is my opinion, I'm going to step away from my role, right? My opinion is the Rio Grande Plan allows for the potential of expansion of rail in Utah. It creates a good heart for the circulatory system to come out from it. You can get off on a train to Moab, to Cedar City, to Logan, out to West Wendover.
There's a private operator interested in Moab.
There is a private operator interested in Moab. So they want to run a private train from Salt Lake City down to Moab.
So I'm sure you're the flying train. You've
I
got
wanna
one life.
I'm in it.
I was just gonna say, it's a chicken and egg type thing with rail transit, where you want the infrastructure for the actual train services, and then nobody wants to create train services if there's no infrastructure. This has been the most transit friendly federal administration in decades, and there's been projects all over the country, but for a project like this, the federal money comes if the state and local governments ask for it. And that's why we're pushing so hard at the city, county, and state levels, because if we can get buy-in from our actual local government, the feds will be on board to give us money. So we keep talking about the feds. They're not going to make the project happen, but they will help fund it if we can get the support happening here in Utah. So
like if the mayor came out and said, I'm in, like, I like the Rio Grande Plan, I'm going to make it happen, then dominoes will start falling. Like, that's truly it. So
Got bipartisan expressions.
we have had bipartisan
State legislature, so.
I have met with Republicans and Democrats in the state at the Senate representative levels. They like the idea.
Haven't found the ones yet that hate it. We will.
We haven't found them yet, but we have gotten everybody that we present this plan to
Running that right up.
usually has positive feedback for it. So again, we have
Are you
these.
getting any movement on that, the other Rio Grande Plan to start incorporating this in? Is it like, since the first time we started talking about this?
I'm looking at, so here's incorporating it with the city plan, with the RDA. I'm still waiting to have a meeting with the RDA.
Warming up or?
I'm still waiting to have a meeting with the city and the mayor, but
all the city councilors love it.
all the city council basically has told us, yeah, if they came to a vote, we would totally support it. But we haven't really heard much from the mayor or the RDA or Salt Lake Transportation. They're all kind of doing the whole talk, and I'm going to be frank. They said talk to UTA, talk to UDOT, talk to Wasatch Front Regional Council, and they said no, talk to the city. So again, it's more of a Mexican standoff saying, hey, who do we need to talk to? Who needs to go? And really what we said is the city needs to say, this is it.
If citizens who aren't us bother them, they'll hear them first, so.
Yes, true. They're tired of seeing me. So thank you. We have postcards and stamps.
Yeah, we'll come fill a postcard out, we'll mail it for you, send it to your state, federal, city officials.
Mayor.
Wherever you want, send it to Santa Claus.
Just make us feel better, okay? Just kidding. Thank you again so much for having me.
Planning Commissioner Landon, will you wrap us up with something down to earth and peaceful?
I will.
With our hands.
Let me figure out, I guess, where can I get off?
Will you guys be cool and stick around for one more presentation about the Land South off ramp?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes, apologies.
Sorry, we didn't know.
Just one more thing.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to hate it less.
We got carried away.
All right.
We got a little
Also, as a planning commissioner, you're gonna want to make nice to him.
Thank you. I'm not functioning in that spot today, but.
Not today.
We already have Mike.
You're an inside guy.
Can I,
Let me make you token this, just a giant auto. Maybe an L, that might be more reasonable.
yeah. While that's kind of coming up, so I am also finishing my graduate degree right now, and I'm working with the Central Ninth Community Council and a bunch of stakeholders to be able to make this project happen. And so this is, give me 1 second to actually just get it. Got 2 screens on my computer, and now the presentation is trapped on the bottom.
You got it.
Yeah. Cool. Moving around the Zoom thing, I need to get into the.
All right, you can always turn around and see what you're showing.
Okay. Sorry, everyone. I don't know if this presentation mode is not working.
You could just drag down the, you can manually drag the, drag it so the main slide is bigger if you want. It's not a fancy solution, but it is a solution.
Yeah. I just would like,
We'll get us some kind of
excavator,
we'll just try to click through and see how it goes. Okay, so this is the 9-line off ramp that you guys kind of mentioned earlier today. Up here in the top right-hand corner, there is a little map of the Central Ninth Community Council. There's like a little green section at the bottom here. That is this off ramp. Why is this all frozen? Okay. So the goal of the project is to transform a negative space into an activated space. We will be able to connect neighbors with this project, provide green space, and provide a gathering community space. Most importantly, this project directly addresses Plan Salt Lake's statement to be able to put community gathering spaces including parks and recreation facilities in all neighborhoods within the city. I know that there is like a overlap with Ballpark, Central Ninth Community. They're both kind of like the same thing, but if we're going by the borders of Central Ninth, there is no parks at all in Central Ninth Community Council's geographic boundaries. So providing a green space would fulfill Planet Salt Lake's, which is our guiding principle. It's the vision for the city to be able to provide a green space in every single neighborhood in the city. So what has happened so far? So I, working with Central Ninth Community Council, have talked to UDOT. This is the big kahuna. This is the big one. So Robert is the regional director for a fourth of the state, and that fourth of the state includes Salt Lake City. And we were able to sit down with Robert and kind of say, how do you feel about this project? How could we make this project happen? And after kind of talking through it with him, he said he is invested in helping make this underpass plaza happen. So that's really, really big. That is not a written document pencil on the line yet. We're still in conversations, but for him to actively say he's invested is really big. We have been working with a couple of different people in the mayor's office. We have been working with some of the city council. We have started communication with the RDA. I think you guys heard something about it a few weeks ago, maybe not.
Yeah, from Kate.
Yes, yeah, from Kate. So thank you for listening to that. I'm excited to continue those conversations. We are working with public lands. We're working with transportation. We're working with the Miller Foundation, and we're working with community councils. We're really trying to make sure that we can be able to get the ball rolling. And one of the big things that we need is to know what the community wants. So I'm going to kind of like blow through some of these slides. I know we've all been here a long time, but I want to be able to kind of create a little bit of a vision of what this could be. But then from there, I can only, we need the community who's actually going to use it, have boots on the ground, to be the ones that decide what this project is going to look like. So I'm going to kind of blow fairly quickly. As you can see, the off-ramp really divides the neighborhood. There are 6 roads that would be potential throughways that are stopped by this viaduct. By this overpass. 3 roads cross under it. Our site is the only space where it connects neighbors to neighbors. Here, there's an apartment section over here, but there's like an industrial area above. So this area is the only spot where we're like connecting neighbors just on the other side of the obstruction that we would be helping. So the big problem with the space right now is that it looks like this. There are weeds that are growing literally 6 feet tall. The space feels dirty, grimy, grungy, and ends up being a barrier where it could become a space that people could pass through and enjoy and be able to connect the communities. So preliminary ideas that people have talked about. There was some love for pickleball and dog parks earlier. That is what people are talking about, and people are asking for that. So there's this great underpass dog park in Florida that I just think is so fun. It's just this really great opportunity for neighbors to get out while being in the shade constantly with their dogs. So I think that's really fun. Kind of ways we can explore the space. What kind of materiality can we use? This underpass park in Mumbai feels intimate and close, and kind of reflects the fact that it's an urban environment. And I really love that they're kind of using the concrete to their advantage. While at the same time, I want permeable surfaces like we can see on the right. So, what kind of vegetation would you guys want to see? I love the idea of breaking up the space into many different kind of micro plazas under this space. But what kind of vegetation? Do we want like more native plantings? What do we want to see? What kind of lighting experience do we want to see? We have this amazing opportunity to really sculpt these huge, beautiful columns. There's a lot of options that we can kind of play with. And I also just love this, this kind of arch here in Mumbai. I think it's really cool. What kind of form do we want to see happen? We're starting the kind of conversation about building out the berm to possibly have like tiered seating built into the berm so that we can expand more of the space, reclaim more of the space. We have the potential for a really amazing kind of overlook to be able to play with the levels that are already in that environment. That, of course, is subject to engineering, and if it gets nixed, then I'm okay. But I just want to be able to talk about the potential of what could happen in this space. Also, this underpass park in Shanghai has really cool kind of sports arena here, just like a basketball courts and stuff. If people want pickleball, we can build it in the shade. So I think it would be really a great opportunity. Here, if it'll play, I did a rendering. So this is not a rendering of the park. This is a rendering of just an idea of what it would feel like to move through a space like this space. Oop, it's not going smooth, but
So that's so cool though. That's really cool.
so kind of a plaza here, tables, trees, benches both facing out towards the road, and then also benches facing each other for conversations. And then also these butterfly bike racks on either end where the kind of canopy, it wouldn't necessarily be that exact model, but kind of, I like the idea of shaded bicycle stations. But of course, it's up to a lot of what the community wants. So this is just kind of a kind of site plan of what you just saw. So kind of mixing green space, some kind of sports space, plazas, trees, seating, kind of what kind of environments would everyone like to see in this space? Requirements from UDOT. After kind of our discussions, some of the main requirements that they were saying is that every part of the bridge needs to be accessible by a bucket truck. There can be no flammable material. So if we use wood, it has to be fire tempered wood or other things. And then no building on the pylons. There's these kind of feet that go out underneath the columns that we don't ever see, but there can be no permanent structure on those spaces. But other than that, Robert was very kind of flexible with us about the way that we can like redefine this space. Okay, so what's happening next? So we're kind of getting the ball rolling on this pretty quickly. On October 4th, we're doing a big community cleanup day. We're kind of thinking about it as a boom day. We have tacit agreement from UDOT to take down the fence that surrounds the perimeter of the area on that day. And then if we, the community, are out painting columns and cleaning up the space, it can really be a big transformation. It's a little hard to see it with my situation right here, but there's a little pink line around all of these columns. The Central Ninth Community Council got a grant to do some art project at this space through the mayor's office. So that's kind of the first step that introduces the community to this being a really feasible option. This is going to help the Central Ninth Community Council district, but that whole district sits within Ballpark. So this is a green space for this community that they can kind of join in, jump in, be a part of. It is on the larger side of a pocket park, but pocket parks are often the most kind of activated parks because you can kind of like cram a lot of stuff into it, and there's a lot of enclosure that helps people feel kind of like the more intimate space. So what we need from everyone today, so the Clean Community Art Project is happening on October 4th. Next kind of other major milestones is the community outreach. So that's what I'm doing right now. I want everyone who's able to take a survey of what they would like to see at this park, at this plaza. And then we want to understand everyone's needs, secure a written land use agreement between Salt Lake City and UDOT, and funding, design, and completing the park. But for now, where we're at is community engagement and the big boom day. So if everyone is able to, who would like to, I've got a QR code here on the right that you can take, and then I've also got a flyer. We can pass them out. Saying, everyone has one. Wow!
I got all
Look at this.
Distributing.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is the project. I think it's a project that is small enough scale to be able to really make a significant difference in this specific community in the short term. So I think it could be really cool. We need your participation. And then also looking forward, I would really love to see this community work together to take some ownership of this space. The kind of maintenance will be the responsibility of public lands, but often I see public lands being really great at mowing lawns and 1 or 2 weed pulls a year. But if we can kind of think about maintenance and like maybe joining together and working with Wasatch Community Gardens, or maybe doing a cleanup day once a year, I'm just pitching that in the general zeitgeist of this could be a space that we take ownership of and say like, this is ours and we claim it. And we can say, thank you, UDOT, for the land, but we're claiming it now and we're gonna use it the way that we want to use it. So with their permission, of course, they have been so wonderful, which is not often that I hear that happening. So, so yes, please take the survey, please help out. And then I will come back as things are kind of developing on this project. So thank you so much, guys. Oh, also questions. I know we don't have time to go home soon, but yeah, go for it.
This looks great. I was gonna suggest, since you had so many precedent kind of projects, one that I've seen is Glenwood Springs, Colorado, has a big overpass and like right in the middle of their little main street, and they built stuff underneath it. It's pretty cool.
Cool.
And that's closer to home.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, go for it.
Is there, you're having a good conversation with UDOT. Is there any way that they can this is gonna sound so weird, I'm just being such an engineer, but like, you know how they have the dividers that block the noise from the roads on the side? Well, is there a way they could attach some sort of fins to the to the overpass to reflect the noise up and away from the community down below?
Yeah.
Using the park, probably
Yeah.
not, but you know.
One of the precedent studies that I kind of showed Robert was a similar idea, but with mirrors and lighting. And Robert was like, well, I'm not saying that's 100% no, but I'm just telling you that it will end up getting lost in engineering for years. So, so there's, as a community, we're saying, I right now, there's a soft no attaching anything to the bridge or concrete. Yeah.
You can measure like the decibel level there? Like how loud it actually is.
Yeah, I haven't actually measured it, but I have spent a significant amount of time at this plaza area, and I'm not almost ever like concerned by cars. It's quieter than a lot of the kind of other more busy streets in our area. Just a lot of the sound is getting reflected up from the cars that are coming off. So yeah, so I don't have a definitive answer on that question. Yeah, from my experience. Yeah. Any community member comments? Good, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. I'm sorry for the
It's where trains are the most noise in that area, the trains going by 200 west.
200.
Oh, traffic trains.
And-
Oh.
Yeah, there are different trains too.
Central, is the central night community? Is that entirely in ballparks? Because I thought that the ballpark district was redrawn so that it was like barely not quite. Where's the ballpark like line? Is it
700.
700.
I think technically as of yesterday, there is an expansion to Central Ninth. So I no longer know the truth of that statement completely, but there's a geographic shifting that's currently happening in that community council. So we'll wait for a few weeks so people know what's happening.
The official,
Announcement.
we've all agreed that it's in community council's interest to overlap more than it is to just abut, because overlap. I don't know if you noticed, but we get a lot of proposals coming through here, and it can be exhausting to try to cover them all. And sometimes we miss them, or the different 45-day periods don't line up with when folks hold their meetings. So the more that we get a little bit of overlap, and especially overlap over important community features, like for us would be Jefferson Park, then we can have two community groups from both sides contributing and get coverage of these different projects from different neighborhoods and collaborate. I mean, that seems good to me.
And we also working on so many projects together that, like the siloing is real. So we can have better communications like this. It's really so much more positive for all of our communities because we support each other. So, it's really, really great things are happening in Ballpark and Central Ninth.
And some of the lines seem so artificial, like if you draw a line on State Street, it's so weird for like one half to belong to one neighborhood and not the other half. Like how one half of a street should inform the other half,
We all live in the same city in the same state, right? So
Oh, no,
we're all
some train, dude.
we're all working to make things better.
All right. One tiny plug. I think I said the word park. Park. The community would like to say plaza or something else instead. They're concerned that a park designation may interfere with liquor licenses.
That's
so
correct.
I just want to be clear that
Good touch.
I don't want to put the wrong taste in anyone's mouth for liquor reasons.
Good catch. Good meeting. Thanks, everybody.
I have groceries to get started if people want some. Fill it out today, I'll put it in the mail tomorrow. But pretty sure everybody wants to.
I didn't want to get it. No, it's all.